Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the weekly wrap up. I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. And before I jump into it, let me give a quick disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Anything that I share during this analysis is for educational purposes only. I repeat, this is not financial advice. Anything that I share during this analysis is for educational purposes only. Cool beans, cool beans. All right, guys, we're going to have a brief weekly wrap up session when it comes to technicals, and I'm going to pass it over to Carmen so she can jump into the weekly fundamental wrap up. And so, looking at Dixie, we know that we was expecting a risk off week for the dollar, meaning a bearish week. Um, Monday and Tuesday gave us two bearish days, ran our relative equal lows that we had identified here, came down into the daily fair value gap, and then we seen a push up, back up into those daily PD arrays, right? And then we seen price respect that 62% daily premium array, right? And today we sold off and closed the day bearish for the dollar. So pretty good week. As far as analysis wise for Dixie, we got our down move with our targets hit. Next week, I expect us to run our next point of interest targets, which is these relative equal lows here and this weekly fair value gap here. So that's what I'm expecting going forward for the new trading week next week. Looking at Euro USD, of course, we were bullish currencies this week because I was bearish for the dollar. We know that currencies inversely correlate with the dollar. So Monday and Tuesday was up days, right? We ran the buy side liquidity here. Didn't get up to these relative equal highs that I wanted to see us run, right? And we've been selling off since Wednesday. We came back down to retest this inversion daily fair value gap. Closed today lower for Euro USD off of that inversion fair value gap. And I'm expecting us to start to push back up for the new trading week, right? Now, if we don't get back above this daily sell side liquidity for Euro USD, then I will, of course, expect price to come down to these weekly PD array levels here, 62 and 79 weekly discount arrays, right? Fill that imbalance in from this BISI, buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency as coined by the mentor Michael Huddleston. And then we'll see how price reacts to those levels, whether we get an aggressive push below and close below, or whether we find support at those levels and start to push back up to the upside. Let me look at the dollar one more time right quick. Let's see something. Yes. Same thing with the dollar, vice versa. If we don't get back below this weekly sell side liquidity, then I expect the dollar to push up to run Friday, November the 24th buy side liquidity, and possibly Wednesday, November the 22nd weekly buy side liquidity. So it's all about what price shows us and tells us in its movement, right? Moving on to the pound, same thing. We wanted to see bullish price action out of the pound this week. Monday and Tuesday gave us that. Wednesday was a flat day for the pound. Yesterday we sold off to retest that weekly buy side liquidity, right? Respected it, and today was an up day for the pound, right? So I expect us to reach up and run these relative equal lows next week. And lastly, for currencies, NZD, USD was beautiful this week. All bearish days except for yesterday. Yesterday was flat. But from Monday on up to today, very bullish price action is exactly what I want to see. I would have liked to see that out of all three currency pairs, but who cares what I would like? So NZD USD played out accordingly, and I'm expecting us to reach up into this imbalance that we see here, and ultimately run these relative equal highs sitting below this fair value gap here, right? So moving on to futures, looking at E-mini S&P 500. She played around all week, didn't give us the real bullish move that I wanted to see until today. But as you can see on my chart, and for everybody that's in the private Telegram group, they got the message in the group. But yesterday, I was expecting us to be risk on, aka bullish for ES and NQ today. And you can see the tweet right here that I sent out, right? I told everybody to look how NQ and S&P is lagging YM. That's Dow futures. Just let me show you Dow futures right quick. So Dow futures had ran both of its daily volume imbalances by Thursday, yesterday, right? See, it just demolished this first volume imbalance on Wednesday and then reached up into the upper volume imbalance yesterday. Now, when you look at ES, we hadn't even made it to the first volume imbalance yet, right? And you look at NQ, yeah, we had pushed through that first volume imbalance, but we hadn't delivered efficiently to the second volume imbalance yet, right? We wicked up into it, but you didn't see a candle push through it or close through it like we did for Dow futures. And that was an indication to me that NQ and ES was going to be bullish today. And that's why I sent out the tweet and sent out the message in the group. And as you can see, I was point on with that. I do expect us to reach up into this daily volume imbalance next week, right? And I'm expecting price to give us some kind of reaction off of that level, whether it be an aggressive push through and we just run this high, or if we resist it aggressively and pull back down to retest the weekly buy side liquidity that we pushed through today, right? And the same thing with NQ. I expect us to run this all-time high next week and make a new all-time high for E-mini NASDAQ. So that's what I'm looking at for futures going forward, going into the new trading week. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will bring the technical weekly wrap up to a close. I'll pass it over to Corman now so she can give us the sauce for the weekly fundamental wrap up. It's all yours, Corman.
Well, hey everybody. So Um, Monday we started this week talking about stress and we talked about what stress can do to your trading. Wednesday we talked about different parts of the brain and how those things affect your trading. Um, or how the different brain areas affect your trading. So tonight I wanted to um it'll kind of sort of be a wrap up, but it'll also be a little bit of new information just going into language and how language is really impactful when it comes to trading. So, um, as I mentioned before, the language that they use in finance or in any industry is used to kind of create a hierarchy so that there's a separation between the customer and the expert or the worker or the industry in general. Because if you know and you understand the language, then that means that their ability to have a marginal edge over you goes away. So, what does that mean? It means that if you know nothing about cars and you go to the mechanic can talk circles around you and you'll have no idea what they're saying. And eventually you'll just be like, just fix it. Or you'll have to call someone to ask them. And then they will have to be literally the mediator between you and the mechanic because they understand both languages. That is why it's important, in my opinion, from a financial standpoint, to have a financial expert, someone in the industry that you trust who will give you the information that you need and won't sugarcoat it, or they can break it down for you in a way that you understand. Because, for instance, if you start a new job and you sit down to do all of the paperwork for your benefits, you get paperwork to do a 401k. Do you even know what you're signing up for? Do you know what kind of plans your company invests in? Do they have administrative fees? Do those administrative fees go up every year? Is it even beneficial for you to even have a 401k? Is it better for you just to save money on your own? You'll never know because a lot of times the language is so complicated that you just want to get through it. And you know you've heard 401k several times and it's supposed to be a good thing. They say it's a good thing. And there are people out there who feel like the government won't steer me wrong and they won't tell me anything that's bad. So they go with it, not realizing that there are plans out there that aren't all that great. Um, I've seen several, especially recently, after COVID, and that's a whole nother conversation, it's just post COVID stuff that's different, stuff that's changed. Increase in administrative fees for some of these plans have gone up. They used to be quarter percent, with a 0.1% increase every year until the end of the plan. I saw a plan the other day that was like 4%. I was just like, ugh. Imagine having $100,000 in an account off the top, 4% of that, 4,000 of your dollars goes straight to administrative fees, which means that that money gets pulled out of your account and goes back to that hedge fund, back to the company who sponsors your account. That's not to that's not even including all the other administrative fees, and that's not including whatever the additional bump up in that is every year after. So it's a lot. You can start a 401k. The market has to outpace your fees, and the market has to outpace inflation in order for your account to truly make money. So anyway, I just find all of those things very interesting. But if you don't understand the language, if you don't understand what you're reading, you wouldn't know. So a lot of these barriers are done intentionally. Um, Now, another thing I will say, and this is still on topic with language, but sorry, um, the psychology of things that are going on right now. Um, I want you to pay attention, but I don't want you to get caught up. There's like two different respiratory illnesses that have come out of China. You have like one is white lung, other one is like something else. Anyway, you have two states in the United States right now that are like heavily affected. And it's mostly affecting kids. But obviously, when it's in humans, it's easy to mutate or carry over diseases from kids to adults. Typically, adults might not show symptoms, but because kids have more, their immune systems are developing, they tend to show symptoms more so than adults. So when you're sitting down and you're reading and you're watching the news and you're hearing these things, the biggest thing to know is patterns. Does this look like something I've seen before? If this looks like something I've seen before, what happened afterwards? And literally mimic the pattern that you saw in the past. If this doesn't mean go out and like um buy a storage container and like hoard water and toilet paper. This means like having an understanding not only of your own habits, but the habits and the mentality of other people. Um, and just knowing what you could possibly do to make your situation better. Um, that doesn't only go for those things I mentioned, but the fact that language, a way of communicating an idea that you have to another person or to an entity. You need to make sure that you understand that there are other people out there who might not speak the same language, not literally like you speak English, they speak French. No, no, no. I mean like you walk outside and they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. They woke up They could have woke up on the right side of the bed, but they walk out and they're triggered easily. They aren't patient anymore. Um, the thing you'll find with COVID, with a lot of seclusion and isolation studies, is that people who leave that environment are no longer patient. They no longer have social interactive skills. They no longer know how to share. They no longer know how to communicate, and they no longer understand and know how to control the volume of their voice. So when you're inside and you're not really talking to other people and you're watching TV and you're seeing other people communicate and they're yelling at each other and they're going back and forth on all these TV dramas and stuff, you take that on. And when you walk outside, that's how you talk to people. And people are very short. They're very entitled because they're used to having everything the way that they want it and they don't have to deal with and contend with other people. Those are the things you have to think about because, does that make you plan different, look at the world different, move a little bit different? Um, and then also like, how you do things with your family. And I think the whole point of why I wanted to even have the conversations from a neuro perspective is because understanding your own mind and understanding stress and what stress will do and how stress triggers triggers it will literally cause people to not even really know like why they're doing something. They're just doing it because they're agitated. But if you can understand for yourself how your mind works and you can understand what those things are that cause the mind to do certain things and be a certain way, and if you can learn how to control it for yourself, and if you can learn how to breathe, learn how to communicate effectively, have those like build those skills that we'll talk about and have kind of started already talking about. Um that'll help you to maneuver through these situations because you would tend to not be stressed in a situation because when one person is stressed, stress oozes through the skin. This is one thing we didn't talk about on Monday, but it's a fact that a lot of people know but can't convey why it happens. But I'm about to tell you why. When you are stressed out, or no, when someone else is stressed out, it's a better way, and you could be very, very calm, very cool, very collected, and just you could be having the best day ever. But here comes a stressful person. They're angry, they're upset, but they're just in the moment stressed out. All you have to do is get within 5 feet of that person, and within 5 minutes, you start to take on their attributes. And it's not, I know some people will say it's vibes, it's pheromones. It's literally they sweat and you ooze sweat. I mean, stress, sorry. You sweat and you ooze stress. So you are literally kicking off pheromones and literally kicking off all of these chemical signals through your skin that say, hey, I'm stressed. It is a natural thing that happens across most animal kingdoms and species. But anyway, yeah, humans do it. Um like you have those that happen for love, like love pheromones. You have it when you're stressed. You have it when you're like feeling really low, when you're like in fight or flight mode and you're like super stressed out and you're like trying to figure out what to do. Other people pick up on that and start to panic with you as well because you're signaling that, hey, something's wrong. And that survival system deep down within your brain triggers. And it's like, pay attention, be on alert. So if you trade and you live in the house with a very high energy, very stressful person, or a person you just don't like, your trading is probably going to be horrible. That's not to say that that person can't be lovable. That's not to say that, whatever. But listen, you have to find a way. If that is the case, you will be better off trading in isolation. Now, mind you, I literally just told y'all isolation is horrible for the human. For every mental faculty that you have, the brain does not like isolation. It actually causes stress when you're isolated because you use other humans to pick up on environmental cues. You would be better off trading alone in a room with white walls all day long and sleeping on the floor in that room, being completely isolated from that person, than trading with them having access to you. That person is going to kick off so many chemical signals at you that you are literally not going to be able to function if you're trying to trade with like a very cool, calm mind, less stress, got my trading plan. They could just walk in the room and walk past you, and you'd be like, what's their problem? Turn back around, and it will throw you off. It'll throw you off because then now you're like, well, what's their problem? And now you're like agitated. You start to get agitated because they walked in, they probably didn't say anything, they walked fast, they slammed the door, they shuffled some papers, and it threw you off. So now you're like, did I do something? Are they gonna come back? Are they gonna like say something to me in a few like so now your stress level is going up. Now you're not going to be settled in your trade and you're done. You've already like ruined your trading day. Well, not you per se, but them, but because they had a chemical influence on you, it's ruining your trading day. Now you're not going to trade focus and you're just going to blow your trades. I mean, I could tell you, like, for most people that trade, they should probably trade without a person having access to them. It would make it, unless that person is like a kid, and that kid would have to be like a very calm kid. If there's a such thing, I don't know. Uh, but a calm kid. Um, so yeah. But language matters. Um, so I told you guys that at some point in time we might go back through the Forex Factory calendar. And I really do think that it's essential that everyone knows the news items that are there so that you don't stress about them. Things that pop up on the news, if they say like, oh, they're shutting down travel to China because of these new respiratory illnesses, the thing isn't to panic, it's to find out how, like, at every turn, you should make your mind work for you and not stress, because every time you get ready to stress out, you should ask yourself, how can I benefit from that? If you ask yourself, how can I benefit from that? That is one of the ways that you can overcome stress in the mind. So, um, how can you benefit from that? How can whatever make me better? How can I incorporate something to the from that, or what can I learn from this? When you start to ask yourself questions like that, it shifts the trajectory of where your brain is placing all of its focus, and it really starts to focus on problem solving. That front part of the brain is large, and it takes up a lot of um it will literally, I'm trying to figure out how to put it in the best way, but instead of this little teeny tiny area of your brain stressing and sending signals down and releasing all these stress hormones, if you get the front part of your brain working on problem solving and thinking and planning, that is literally going to consume your thought process. You're literally going to go into what some people call like a flow state. A flow state is really when you're sitting there and you're working and you're in the groove and you're just working and you're working and you're working. You're just putting down ideas. When you're thinking and you're planning and you're really into what you're doing, that's literally flow state. And if you shift your brain from stressing about the respiratory illnesses to, well, how can I benefit from that? Now you're like, how can I benefit from that? Okay, maybe I could go ahead and do some preparedness thinking. I could, just go ahead and buy like a couple of cases of water, get some like paper items, get some masks and gloves if that's like something that you might need, get some cleaning materials. For the trader, how can I benefit from that? Pfizer, Moderna. You start writing down all the pharmaceutical companies, Clorox, Kimberly Clark, because Clorox cleaning, Kimberly Clark makes gloves and all the protective equipment. So you're like, okay, let me go ahead and write these down. And then you're like, oh yeah, we're already in the middle of flu season, cold season, RSV season anyway. So, like health insurance. This is like the biggest time of the year, FYI, for healthcare insurance companies. So you're like writing down all these things, and then you start to plan and you start to put ideas down. Now, the brain does a really, 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 really good job at handling goals and tasks that you write down. So if you say to yourself, I want to buy 5 shares of Pfizer, your brain is now looking for ways to buy 5 shares. So you're going to get the idea, okay, let me go open up a brokerage account. Let me find out how much money I have in my bank account. What bills do I have coming up? Can I afford to put, I don't know, $100 in my brokerage account? Yes, I can afford to put $100 in there. I'm going to put $100 in my brokerage account until I can buy my 5 shares. So when you write down in that flow state, how can I benefit from this situation? You can turn all those things in that list into goals, and your brain will do a really good job at helping you to achieve your goals. Why? Because Wednesday, remember, I told you guys that when you focus on something, that's all your brain sees. So if you go to the dealership and you see a red car and you just love that red car and you have to have that red car, but you can't get it right now, and then on your way home, you see 6 red cars and you're like, man, I'm just seeing red cars all over the place. No, those red cars were there. You're just now focused on the red car so much to the point where that's all your brain sees. You have to write down your goals and focus on your goals to the point that that's all your brain sees. All your brain sees is, I'm going to be a profitable trader. Now your brain is like, okay, well, whatever information you come across about trading, your brain's going to soak it up because it's finding those pieces that it needs to help achieve the goal that you keep talking about and that you've written down. So write down goals that are meaningful. So the key to goal setting, the key to um putting down goals, but then also achieving those goals is set the big ones, but then also give your brain mini goals. So if you want to have $100,000 trading account and you're starting from 500, that seems like a huge task. However, if you say to yourself, I'm starting this account with $500, but by the end of the month, the end of the quarter, the end of the year, I want to be at X dollars. Every time now you get closer and closer to that goal, your brain gets rewarded because you're checking off things. Like that reward, regret, punishment center of the brain actually feels accomplished. It's like happy. So you get that rush of dopamine, and now you're trying to do it over again. Your brain wants to repeat that task because you're getting hit with all of these hormones telling you and these neurotransmitters telling you that you did something good. We did something good. Let's do it over again because you like that feeling. The brain and the body like the feeling of having a dopamine release, dopamine rush. So now you're ready to go after the next goal. That's why when you set goals and you hit a goal and you know you have another goal, you're like, yeah, I hit this goal, but yeah, I got to get to that one now. Yes, your brain is like ready. Your brain is like constantly like, let's just go, let's go, let's go, let's go. So set the big goals, but make little teeny tiny goals out of that one big one so that you don't feel like it's a huge task, because you don't want to set a goal that's big without setting smaller goals, because if you don't set smaller goals, your brain doesn't feel like it's achieving anything, and then you're more likely to give up. All right, I'm done.
Cool beans, cool beans, cool beans. So stay as always. We appreciate you coming, keeping us saucy with the fundamentals, and just the other knowledge that you share with us as well that ain't really pertaining to fundamentals, but kind of is. We appreciate you for everything. So, with that being said, I want to take this time to thank everybody for coming out, tuning in, getting this knowledge, and empowering yourselves. As always, let your family and friends know you love them while they still here. And I will see you guys on Monday. Well, the pre-week analysis, but Monday night class officially. So with that being said, as always, peace and love, everybody. You know